Hello, Eurovisions Conference. This is Leeds calling. I'm Dr. Sam Murray. I'm a lecturer in music management for the University of Leeds.
And I'm Jenna Doyle, Senior Lecturer in Music at Middlesex University, London.
What we're going to be sharing with you today is an overview of our research into songwriters' perspectives of Eurovision. So let's take a dive in. We're going to start off by talking about the methodology of our project. So this project kind of emerged from wanting to understand how does a songwriter actually experience the contest. We very much felt that ethnography was a really great way to do that, particularly to try and understand the lived element of that experience. We also, as part of this process, were drawing on our own professional experiences. And Jenna, you've got a background, haven't you, within songwriting?
Yes, so I have like a dual career. So I'm an academic, but I'm also a commercial songwriter in the US, Asia, Europe, America, all across the world, really.
And I'm the other side of the team, being an absolute diehard Eurovision fan who's been to about 6 or 7 contests now. So it seems like, when Jenna and I had a cup of tea at a staff event, as we used to be colleagues at the same institution, we thought this would be a really good fit for a research team, a professional songwriter and a Eurovision fan. Let's see what we could come up with. So we're going to share findings with you today for a pilot study we did, where we interviewed 5 different Eurovision songwriters. And then we also cross-referenced the things that we found with fan media talking about songwriters, because quite interestingly, there is not that much mainstream media coverage of Eurovision songwriters unless they're a performing artist or unless they've done something of perceived significance by the mainstream media.
So we first of all looked at Eurovision as an inspiring platform and talked to our interviewees about this. And it emerged that a lot of songwriters are, tackling the unique challenge of Eurovision for both commercial and personal reasons as well. And they see it as something that's truly different and a very different kind of challenge as a writer. We also have the idea of the kind of constraints or rules of the contest, kind of 3 minutes, certain requirements of the song, to set that creative challenge and responding to the identities of each country, for example. And that's a very exciting challenge for them. We looked into some of the kind of key songwriting camps for Eurovision and kind of gained some really great insights into camps from the Woods in Norway, for example, who have had multiple entries over the years and for the national selection as well. So songwriting camps as a way into Eurovision was definitely a theme that we explored with our interviewees for sure.
So we're just going to take a look at what participants have said about why they want to get actually involved in Eurovision and what's kind of inspired them. One of our songwriters, who was based in the UK, was really inspired by Sam Ryder's performance and the fact that Eurovision was in Liverpool back in 2023. And this had really changed the perception of the contest for songwriters in the UK and wanting to be involved. Another kind of reflected a common sentiment amongst many of our participants, which was that the contest itself will always attract writers because it is such a unique challenge that you can't really get anywhere else in the world. And then finally, one of the interesting interview quotes we got from our participants was talking about the actual contest process itself, saying that knowing so many people have voted for your song and that you have made your country proud, well, that's really an indescribable feeling. So being able to represent your country as a songwriter and have that lead a country to some kind of success can have such a positive impact on the experience for songwriters.
So moving on to the commercial songwriting process, we split this into kind of 2 parts, if you like. So first of all, you have the pathway to camp participation. So at the top, we have writers or aspiring writers. This could also be writers who've previously written for Eurovision coming back to the process. Sometimes these writers have a publishing deal and the fees for the camp can be paid for by the publisher and recouped through royalties that the songwriters receive via them. Or sometimes these songwriters are self-published, self-funded, they pay for it themselves, find a key contact or apply to the camp and are deemed, worthy to attend. So both these individuals reach out either personally or through their publisher to the songwriting camp themselves. The songwriting camp may or may not have funding. So for example, we discovered that Norway and Norwegian camps are very supported through funding. Other camps, not so much, but they sign up for the camp and either attend in person, flying or train, and then staying usually within a very close space, either within the complex where the studios are themselves or very nearby. They can also attend via Zoom, which has become much more prominent since COVID, and even post-COVID, a lot of camps are still held online. These camps typically can last anywhere from 3 to 5 to 7 days. And once everything is organized, everyone starts to attend the camp. One thing to note just on the left-hand side is that songwriters who do not have a publishing deal are often offered a single song publishing agreement or single song assignment for the song that's written or the songs that are written there. So they have publishing representation for those songs only. So moving on to how the actual songwriting camp works during the week or however many days it is. Typically the camp itself and every day is started with a briefing. There's typically a briefing at the start of the entire camp to talk about the focus of the camp, whether it's Eurovision or otherwise. This format is very, very common to other commercial writing camps across the world. So there's typically a briefing at the start of the camp itself, and every morning will feature a briefing where people are assigned to groups, and those groups are assigned to studios or rooms, as written here. If it's a Eurovision camp, the requirements will be discussed as well, some of the constraints or just the rules there around that. And then begins this cycle that continues throughout the day. Typically one song will be written a day, starting with consultation with the artist or discussing the brief for that particular country or delegation. Then the ideas are generated, refined, a demo is recorded throughout the day. The standard is very, very high. Often the working demo that is completed at the end of the day is very, very close to being master ready quite often. The producer may or may not receive a split for this, depending on whether they count themselves as a writer. And this cycle of refinement carries on throughout the day until the evening. Usually these camps can go well into the evening, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, where a listening session completes the day. So everyone gets together, listens to the songs that have been written with the artist or not with the artist if there's no artist attached. Splits are agreed, publishing splits, and then once the camp is completed, the camp organizers themselves can follow up on pitching those songs to artists, countries, delegations, so on and so forth. So thinking about that, the camp structure, we then moved on to some of the commercial returns that songwriters had perceptions of, because in these interviews, these are very much individual perceptions of the contest and their contribution and what they expected to receive. So radio airplay of songs was seen as crucial to economic return. This is true of national selections as well, not just the main Eurovision competition. Streaming revenues were not expected to be especially high, but still counted as important as part of the songwriter's income. And we calculated that there was an estimated average of £140,280 generated from the streams of each winning Eurovision song. We also talked about physical products, which didn't come high on the list in terms of expectation for songwriters, but the returns from these can be higher in terms of mechanical royalties, but generally it was expected that more money would come in from TV broadcast regarding the contest and the song. So on this topic, participants said, as a writer in the contest, I know for sure it's not a big financial opportunity, and that having access to the master side or the recorded side of the songs gives you opportunities to make more money. So overall, we found that writers were very much doing or pursuing Eurovision for a love of the contest, a love of the challenge. They didn't expect a big financial return. It was on their minds, but they were well aware that it was going to be a life-changing amount of money.
One of the things that we also chatted with our songwriter participants about is what other opportunities outside of the commercial returns that they perceive as getting from being part of the Eurovision songwriting community. And what's interesting was exploring the relationship between songwriting for Eurovision and general professional commercial songwriting practice. Quite often, Eurovision is presented as a specific context, but many of the writers involved also write for different markets, a bit like Jenna, who writes for the South Korean market, the American markets, and other places as well. So songwriters really found that Eurovision in itself provides a really important opportunity to network and potentially find new songwriting partners, either through the camps that they attend, or even in some cases at the contest itself. Having a Eurovision song can also raise kind of standing within the songwriting community. It is taken seriously by songwriters. If you are successful as a songwriter within the contest, you are held in high esteem. So the writers behind the code from this year, for example, have been held in pretty high esteem, and there's been a lot of positive comments about their writing abilities and skills. The community we very much found through our interviews is very much celebratory rather than competitive. Okay, we're talking about a song competition, but the competition is not really between songwriters who understand that they can still work together, they can collaborate, and they're not effectively themselves competing within this contest. And this helped build new professional relationships and forging them. Although one of the interesting pieces of feedback we've had is that many songwriters feel that the European Broadcasting Union could try and facilitate some of that networking opportunity for the songwriters to effectively give them something back for their contribution. We've got an example from one of our participants who's talked about that kind of networking they've done at the event. And this particular participant had said that the Norwegian team, they wrote for Norway, had booked them some accommodation, but then actually realized that there was an opportunity to book accommodation for that year's contest in Stockholm, right next to the arena. And by paying the extra money to stay at this particular hotel, it was a good decision because they ended up meeting different songwriters for coffee and different artists for coffee, and made half of the Eurovision business contacts that they have from that one particular trip of being right in the heart of the action. The final kind of topic that we've explored, and this relates quite nicely to this conference theme of fairness and unfairness, is about this idea of recognition and support. And unfortunately, songwriters are feeling that their role is diminishing in the contest. They used to actually receive the Eurovision trophy on stage, and now this only happens if the performer is an artist. Quite interestingly, the majority of songs this year, I think I've worked out about 30 or 31 of the songs that are performing on stage this year have the artist who is performing it given a songwriting credit. So it is quite highly likely that we will see a songwriter picking up the trophy, but there are about six or seven songs that don't have the artist as a songwriter, which could mean it's possible songwriters don't. But all of the other songwriters involved are currently given mini trophies off stage when they used to be the main recipients. And many felt that this would be a really simple thing to do, to have their trophies presented on stage and to be recognized. Songwriters also feel that their participation has been reduced to basically having their name on the screen for a mere number of seconds. And Jenna and I spent ages trying to count and figure out what is the most time that we've had a Eurovision songwriting credit appear on the screen over the last 10 years or so. I think the longest was about 5 or 6 seconds, and then the shortest 2 or 3. So kind of blink and you'll miss the songwriters' names. Also, one of the things that emerged is that many songwriters are not actually funded to attend the contest, and many aren't actually allowed in the delegation itself So many songwriters may be in the arena, but quite often they will have to pay for their own ticket. They won't be allowed to sit in the green room with the artist, and they'll have to pay for their own flights and accommodation as well. Just a few things that the participants said about this and their feeling of recognition. One has really felt that songwriters should be recognized because they feel it's a songwriting competition at the end of the day. Another participant said that they're not sure the general public is looking at who's written the songs, especially as when you see it on the telly, it's tiny and it's there for about 2.5 seconds. As we say, that's ranged. I think 7 was the longest, but still a minuscule amount of time that these credits are appearing. Someone else has put that they think that the EBU have got to get songwriters recognised and more involved in the contest itself and the event itself. There are many different ways that our participants have kind of suggested we'll go on to in a minute. And then finally, that there were some cases in the past I was asked to finance my entire trip, something I refused to do on the occasions it happened, as I felt that lacks respect towards the songwriter. So this particular writer felt disrespected asking to finance their own trip ahead of other participants of the delegation who perhaps they perceived hadn't contributed as much. So this leads us on to the final part of our findings so far, I'm going to stress. And I think Jenna and I are going to take these in turn and explain these in turn for you. So the first recommendation that we have had from our participants is that Eurovision could potentially have links to songwriter pages. So currently on the website, you can find out information about who the songwriters are, but they would really like the opportunity for you to be able to kind of click through the songwriter's name and see their other body of work that they're doing commercially outside of the contest.
Yes, the next recommendation is regarding the songwriters' attendance in the green room in the contest, and that their place should be guaranteed in the green room. We had varying accounts of different expectations or treatments of the songwriters, and there was a strong agreement that the offer of attending the contest and being in the green room should be guaranteed.
Another really interesting idea that one of our participants suggested is that they would be willing to become a songwriter ambassador. They are the head of quite a successful songwriting camp and do have quite a strong network of various songwriters already involved in the contest, and felt that they wanted to advocate on behalf of their songwriting community to show that it's important that songwriters are involved in the contest and to try and find different ways to increase and raise their profile as part of their participation.
And then finally, we touched upon earlier that songwriters were presented accolades off stage. The idea of presenting winning songwriters the trophy, a trophy on stage, was very much welcomed as an idea. The songwriters we interviewed very much recognised that the show is rightly very performance and artist focused, or a lot of attention is on the artist, but they felt that more could be done just to raise their platform and to give credit to the creative work that they've done. And being presented a trophy on stage very much fed into this idea.
So we've come to the end of our presentation. We are still carrying on our research in different ways. So since doing this particular pilot project, we've actually launched a songwriter survey. So far, we've got about 30 responses. We've spoken to about 7 or 8 songwriters further to the 5 that we already have. And we're really starting to pull together more of a Europe-wide picture of what's going on. So if you are joining us in Basel, you are going to get exclusive first look insights into our findings. There's some very juicy statistics that we've got to share with you, and maybe also some new quotations and new knowledge that we're going to share. So if you are able to join us online in person to Basel, we will see you there, and hope you have a great rest of your time at Eurovision.
Thank you.
Thank you.